Kuf Nun Vov, the bottom section. In general, the discussion is to identify the effect of the makif of Ak or the Mukadmi. Which is present in every Yid, to the extent that it elicits a commitment on the part of a Yid to recognize and to be completely dedicated to Elokus. Although this is a makif, there's not a definitive message therein. Some kind of effect of its presence resonates with the Yid to the extent that he commits himself to it. And what we are trying to do is to understand why is there such a reaction, such a response. Even though, and we said that this is a keach ne'elam, it's a very subtle, it does not express itself. This whole effect is without self-identity. Someplace in the remote crevices of the mind, it hovers. And yet this remote hovering has a profound effect on the Yid to the extent of affecting his commitment. Of which way does he love to live? What is the meaning of life to him? That's how profound this effect is. So the truth is, we can go back and learn again the way that it presents it. It will never be superfluous. It will never be an extra, ineffective and useless thing. Definitely, there's an enrichment every time you go back to it. Especially when you go a second time and a third time, you notice different emphasis. But for the sake of us recognizing our progress, we're moving on. So therefore we have to continue, and everything else we fill in from our own recognition. But we'll start from the last line anyway. Hine be'emes, hine behold. And I translate this word intentionally. We all know what the meaning of the word hina is. But I want to emphasize, and as we discussed many times, behold means that this is something which I do not have to convince you of. I don't have to explain it to you. You open your eyes and you behold it. Because it is so clear and so obvious and so significant that in your open eyes you see it. In truth, hu koyach nela, it is a concealed, a subtle and remote koyach. I have to bring this out as many times as sometimes it hits us. A person never perceives himself as being a functioning machine. He is just doing his thing, but he's not relating to the environment. There's nothing there for him to recognize. It's just himself, what he has to do. This is hopefully never a human experience. It is true that he is focused on what he has to do. But along with that, and the reason that he is focused on what he has to do is due to the effect of the overall environment. It's called the makif. And this is not just a circumstance, this is the effect of the reality within which he is functioning. In this reality, this is an imperative that you act in a responsible and a certain meaningful way. But Yaakov and Esau, the Torah says, Yaakov prepared some kind of a concoction in honor of Yitzchak's passing, Hadashi. Esau was in the field doing his thing. He came back from his field and he was very engaged, he was a very active presence in the field, did all kinds of different things. So he came home and was exhausted. So he says to Yaakov, give me some of this concoction, I'm tired. So Yaakov goes ahead, of course, pours him out a plate. Esau sits down at the plate and just gobbled it up without any regard as to what it is and how do you prepare for eating. Zero. Just gobbles it up and rises up and leaps. And the Torah makes note of this phenomenon. And the note is that there was no refinement, there's no cognizance. In our simple terms, he did not make a bracha, he did not wash his hands, nor did he make a bracha. He just sat down and he gobbled it up. And then he rose up and left again without any giving cognizance to what happened. The Torah makes note of this. Why? Is that just to insult and embarrass Esau? What's the message to them? The message to them is that to be so completely oblivious as to what's going on and being solely involved in what you are personally affected by, this is the mode of Esau. For Yaakov, this is totally strange. Now this difference, this awareness that Yaakov has, and Esau is oblivious to, this is an awareness of something which is ne'alam. This is a subtle awareness. It is not that Aesop kicked benches around and pushed tables around. This was not the case. He was not obnoxious in his behavior. He was totally just unaware. And this lack of awareness, he says, is Aesop's attitude in contrast to Yankov. Why does Yankov have that cognizance and Aesop doesn't? The answer is Aesop is focused on that which affects him. Yankov is aware of where that comes from. How is it being provided with this need? What's the spirit behind it? In terms of this particular incident, Yankov was knows it. He cooked a concoction. There was a reason for this cooking. And we said this was because of Avelis and so forth. There was something going on. Aesop was totally oblivious to it. And it's easy to be oblivious because it is koyach nela. It does not demonstrate itself, does not demand recognition. The concoction is exactly identical, with or without this cognizance. To Yankee, it's very important to know where this is coming from. Because Yankov is in constant cognizance that this is not a haphazard world. This is not an unintentional presence. That there is a creator. There's a positivity in his presence. It's there because somewhere there's a will that it should be there. And he recognizes that from the very nature of the world itself. This is not an accidental world. This concoction that Yankee prepared for him didn't happen accidentally. He was standing in the kitchen, and these things fell into the pot, and fell into the pot, and he cooked it up. There is no such possibility. This is not the way he sees it at all. Not only does he not see it in the practical level, but he doesn't see it in terms of before it happens, what preempted it to happen. This is what the Rebbe says. Again, the last line. Hine, be'emes in real truth, hu koyach nelam, this makif, this environmental effect, or we call it environmental, this unobtrusive, this general, this overall environmental situation that brings all these things together. is a koyach ne'alam. It's a spirit that demands recognition, but does not demand recognition by overtly. It demands recognition by its effect, by giving a meaning to the presence. So be'emes ukirech ne'alam. I mentioned many times when the Rebbe says the word be'emes, it means to alert us to a focus, to something which is not functionally identifiable. But be'emes at the truth level, meaning what initiates it, what gives it a force. It is a koyach ne'alam. We cannot identify what initiates it. So last time we spoke about the daily cycle in this context. The daily cycle is a constant occurrence. The sun rises and the sun sets. And it's to such an extent undemanding of recognition that it is possible, and as a matter of fact, there is a whole thought process in the world that says it is not intended to make day, just an accidental result. Things turn in their own cycle, in their own environments, totally unintending as to the result of this turn. Which is an Aesop type reaction. Yankov's reaction is totally different. He recognizes that this is a phenomenal koyach, a limitless koyach. And definitely there is intent and there is meaning to this cycle. And this meaning is provided to the world in an unabridged and unlimited fashion. And it is still a koyach ne'alam, which means it completely camouflages itself. It lets you get the benefit of its function, of its action, without as much as calling your attention to the action itself. And if you wish, you can interpret it as being an accidental act. Nature. To that extent, it's a koyach ne'alam. But if you are not really, so to speak, blinding yourself intentionally, but you allow yourself to be affected by what your eyes tell you, then still so, even though it is so undemanding, Nikomokim still, Hare, behold! You cannot ignore this phenomenon. Yesh bozer rotzin. There is therein a rotzin. This is not an occurrence that happens unawares on the part of the participants. There is therein a rotzin. So this is like in our moshel. And the same is true in the neshama and the effect of makif upon the neshama. There is a makif. The makif is a presence which is unaffected by time and space and so forth. It's infinite. And therefore, you would think the makif does not care as to what the result of its presence is. The makif does not care whether you give it cognizance or you don't. And if you give it cognizance, you wouldn't know the difference. What gain does it have from you recognizing it? So we have to nevertheless recognize. Mikol mokom, yet still, even due to its infinity and its total superior reality, still have a yesh bozeh rotzen. There is therein the rotzen. It does not occur from an accidental perspective. It does not occur because something is there, so it's there. There is significance to its being identified, significance to its effect. To the extent that when one recognizes it, it turns him to pay attention to this and say, hey, there is something extremely significant here. And this is the Malchus Shamayim, this is the oyer and the horror of the presence of the king himself. And as a result of that, it elicits a commitment to this Malchus Shamayim. Behu inyan, the last word on that line, Behu inyan, this rotzain, that yes, bozeh rotzain, this rotzain is represented by the fact of Kabbalah Seyo Malchus Yisboreh Berotzain, of accepting the yoke of Malchus, of the king. This is not a haphazard situation. It is not no man's land. Even though the Malchus really is superior, and you cannot affect it in any which way, positively or negatively. Nonetheless, it is an intended presence. As a result of that, that elicits in the neshama of Kabbalah Seir Malchus, of accepting the yoke of yours, to relate to it, of subserving itself, submitting itself to its service. I know you don't need my services, but I just want to be a participant in everything that you want. This is the Kabbalah Seir Malchus Yisboreh Berotzain. I just want to be there. You didn't ask me to do anything, but this is what I identify myself with. I want to be part of your Malchus. Let's continue on the next page. So this is Kabbalah Seir Malchus Yisboreh Berotzain. The Kabbalah Seir is not superimposed on the Yid, but the Yid is seeking it out. Rak, except, we still call it a koyach ne'elam, he still stays, so to speak, in a concealed and a hidden stage, because it's too great to be revealed. She'einei b'izgalos or rotzain, it is not in a form of b'izgalos or rotzain, where the rotzain is in full self-expression, b'bchinas yitzia mehadroga, such that will affect him to step out of his limits. Normally, when something is overwhelming, a powerful rotzen, it's reflected in the mode of action. But the action is lacking control. This still remains a rotzen, a concealed rotzen, because the presence of this Ein Sof is also a nala. It is not a demanding presence. You can almost interpret it as he is not being aware even of the fact that I know that he is there, of the effect of his presence. Although the effect of his presence is phenomenal, it changes the entire spirit of existence. But he, due to his superiority, is above it. He's not aware, so to speak. Still, there is a rotzen, there is an intent in this gilui, in this self-revelation. And this intent is to be translated as rotzen. It's intended means I want it to be recognized. And the result of this is the Kabbalah Seir Machutzim. I want it to be recognized because I want to bestow upon the creation the spirit and the greatness of this presence. And therefore the response to that is Kabbalah Seir Machutzim is Borich Berotzen. Accepting the yoke, Berotzen. It changes the entire phenomenon of worldly existence. Whereas normally worldly existence would preoccupy with itself, all of a sudden it's recognized as something of a completely different realm. To the extent he says, no, I want to be subservient to this Malchus. And that's what I really want. Rak except I'm sorry, I'm repeating it. This recognition of the Rotz and the Kabbalah soil, the Rotzin is not the Rotzin in the Kabbalah soil. The Rotzin in the Kabbalah soil is not a forthright expression. I want something. If it's not an expression, I want something. Kabbalah soil, he's just subservient. In a quiet way, he becomes subservient. There isn't the excitement, oh, I want something. It is too great of a present to identify I want something. It simply embraces and identifies me as part of that greatness. And that's what I want to be. Therefore there's Rotzen, but there's not a Rotzen that affects a change of venue, a change of activity. There's a profound commitment without any kind of effect on a practical level. Avol, but yet still at the end of that first line, Yesh bazer rotzen chozuk v'taki b'nefesh. Therein there is a strong and a resolute, takif is a good word, resolute rotzen in a nefesh. Although it stays put. It does not direct him to any kind of a specific activity. Okay, yeah, let me just finish this. In his galas harotzein, or the principle of his galas harotzein, revealing the rotzen who be his spoilers when nefesh. His galas harotzein is, and his spoilers is an excitement, an affective, something that affects a nefesh. There's an excitement element. There's an awareness that he wants something. Ubitzio migedake, to the extent that he steps out, so to speak, of any kind of limits, anything that would contain him within boundaries, but he just jumps out of himself and goes there. Doesn't look for what is the right way to act under this circumstance. He just steps into the reality. Rotzen, his gavus rotzen is when there is an identifiable means by which he connects with. There's no his gavus rotzen. This is too great. This is a koyach nela. He connects to it itself on its level.